Another week of all-time highs for Bitcoin. How much further can it keep going? And Ethereum wraps up its largest conference of the year. We cover all this right now in the Collective Shift weekly recap, actionable insights, and a breakdown into the crypto market, all in under 30 minutes. Nick, another week of highs for Bitcoin. A lot to get to this week.
Yeah, it's I can get used to this type of price action and sentiment out there in the market. It's been absolutely booming, and it probably raises the question now. We're starting to enter that point in the cycle where we ask whether we're hitting local tops. How hard is it going to get to smash through 100K? How long will that take? I know Euphoria on my timeline is starting to get bit increase when you're seeing especially a lot of cryptocurrencies like Cardano, XRP start to boost off not really a lot of tangible news. That's always a sign that we're entering that type in the market at the moment. But perhaps you can go over just how exactly far these cryptocurrencies have run up in the recent rally.
Yeah, so Bitcoin is staying over 90,000, which is really promising to see. So that consolidation, really getting as much, I guess, time ahead above 90,000 would be fantastic, I suppose, from the long-term investors' standpoint. Given how hard it run up, you would naturally expect it to come down, into the 80,000s. I would have thought personally. I'm not a day trader, but I would have thought that was we were due for that. But we've still been holding above 90,000, which is excellent. So 12% gain there for Bitcoin over the past 7 days. Solana basically by the same amount as well. Notably, Ethereum has actually slid slightly by nearly 3%, so 2.7% down over the past 7 days. And yeah, as Nick alluded to there, we've got XRP nearly doubling in the past 7 days, so up 80%. And meme coins in particular have had a really, really strong past week or so, with Dogecoin, I suppose, leading them in terms of absolute dollar gains by market cap. That is now up 30% in the past 7 days. So yeah, a lot of price action as you would expect, a lot of volatility in these type of conditions. And yeah, that's a state of play at the moment. We're really just, looking forward now to what happens with the Federal Reserve and their interest rate decision in December. As we've been saying, it's about a 50-50 chance of whether they'll cut rates or not. So we've got important like employment data coming up before then, and that's like the short-term sort of focus of what will move the market. Of course, anything to do with government or US government won't really impact the market, in my opinion, in the coming weeks, just because we're in that transition period where typically not much happens, to keep it simple. But yeah, we'll get into sort of some milestones or some retail mania that has sort of come back. Before I just do that, I will mention sort of another key indicator that we should keep in mind as well is that I did see, Nick, that the Bitcoin market cap actually surpassed silver for the first time, I believe. So, or at least what is silver's known market cap, I suppose. Silver doesn't have a very defined supply like you do with Bitcoin. So the silver that's known sort of in the market, Bitcoin actually surpassed that, which I sort of had to pinch myself when I saw that. Was quite remarkable to see how far Bitcoin's come.
Yeah, we're really climbing up the rankings there. I know Checkmate on a Collective Shift platform. He's a contributor. He had a really good post diving into this, calling it Basecamp One. So this is the first milestone, and obviously the big daddy of them all, gold. That's the one everyone is got their sights set on. I would love to take a poly market bet on at what point Bitcoin starts to really challenge gold, and take some market share away. So lots of love there, and you can't help but love seeing Bitcoin top 10, total assets in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what happens Bitcoin moving forward if it can keep climbing those ranks. But I think one thing that we will be watching to see whether that can happen or how fast that happens is just general interest in Bitcoin, which is certainly, started climbing as you would expect with the price action. So Google Trends data here, we're seeing Bitcoin has sort of passed the highs it got to in March of this year in terms of just Google search volumes. So that would again be expected, but of course we're still well off those sort of highs that we got to around late 2020 and even throughout 2021 as well. So that's notable, and another sort of point that we are keeping in mind also is just the Coinbase App Store rankings as well, which we've seen really shoot up, of course, again as you would naturally expect. So we're also seeing the price there or the rankings. I think Coinbase got to number one, Nick, in terms of the finance category, and I'll go up on my
Yeah,
screen.
we also saw Phantom, I think, make top five in terms of the finance category. And then I think Coinbase went from uh, maybe around 200s, 180s in total apps, I think, to cracking a top 25 in total apps at its peak. So a lot more interest happening. And that's, one of the best, I think, signals that we can see, especially things like Phantom, which specialize in a lot of Solana meme coin activity. That's the number one app a lot of people use for engaging on with Solana on the go. And as we talked about in the past, something like 80% of total volume is meme coins. So that's a direct signal that, hey, the market is getting really excited when you got the likes of Phantom shooting up those charts.
Yeah, for sure. Similarly, seeing Moonshot really climb up the rankings too for reasons, the same reasons as well, Nick. And another really good top signal indicator historically has been the MVRV ratio, which we've talked about a lot over the years. We're seeing on the orange line there on your screen. MVRV has come up, sure, as you would expect, but it's still around the mid two levels, so around 2.5 to 2.7 at the moment, which again, going back to past all-time highs for that particular ratio, it always tends to get up above 3.5 and above 4. It got up obviously higher towards 6, 7, 8 in its early days, but that expecting anything like that is unrealistic in my opinion. But yeah, even the March highs, it is still Bitcoin MVRV still has not got to those levels. All that's to say, that's like a really healthy sign in my opinion for Bitcoin's outlook, because MVRV, which again, once that keeps going high, you start to get a bit worried or a bit more, I guess, certainty or a bit more confidence that the market top is in. That has not been the case so far. So yeah, good signs there, and we'll keep checking in on sort of the pulse of the market through certain on-chain indicators, as well as sentiment, of course.
The other big one that I saw, Matt, as to really show us about this interest in the market was the Bitcoin ETFs. So they actually had the biggest single day inflow on record. That was about 1.12 billion, and that happened, I think, a few days, well, in the last week, in the fallout from the election. So in total, since the election, there's actually been about 500 or 5 billion dollars flowed into the Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum ETFs, which were also looking a bit dicey and have a bit of a slow burn to get going. They've actually had their best week since as well. So they're starting to get to break even point. So hopefully the bleeding has finally come out of these Ethereum ETFs, and into next year we can finally see some legitimate flows, especially if we start to see things like staking. But maybe more on that later.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll go up on my screen here. Probably one of the most important charts, I think, at the moment. A lot of people, understandably, seeing this huge run up in Bitcoin and wondering, like, how much more can we really go up in such a short amount of time? This is a really excellent chart on, Checkmate's free website. It's available for free. This, tracking Bitcoin's price since its cycle lows. On the black line there, for anyone listening, it's a bit hard to articulate, but what we're really seeing here, I'll give it my best shot, is in this cycle. So we're calling this from the 2022 lows around the time FTX collapsed, from today. So we're around 730 days since that event. So technically 730 days into this cycle since the low. We're really seeing a similar trend in terms of Bitcoin's price action, where after this amount of time, so 730 days, Bitcoin's price is it's actually quite. I encourage everyone to check it out on YouTube, our podcast, because we're almost to the exact same point where we were in the last two bull markets since the cycle lows. So, in other words, after around 730 days, for the previous cycle and the cycle before that, we're almost at the exact same point in terms of price appreciation by percentages from the cycle lows. So and I think that the good news and the promising news for investors out there who are relying and taking on this historic data. Again, no guarantee it happens again, but the promising outlook here is that the cycle tops for those two past cycles are still to come. So if you look on your chart here, that's the green point here happened. The cycle top 2 cycles ago happened around 3 years after the cycle lows, and for and that was also similar for the previous cycle as well, where we saw, if you may remember, that really sharp double top essentially around the whole time of the FTX and Alameda sort of propping up the market and whatnot that we saw in I believe it was throughout 2021. So really, this is the most important chart in my opinion because it sort of grounds people, because I'm seeing a lot of excitement naturally with prices, but really we're only just getting started in my opinion. All right, Nick, what have we got
That's a really good chart there,
otherwise
Matt.
to yeah, it is. It is. I'll paste it below in the show notes because again, Checkmate has done a really good job growing this website. And yeah, we'll share it below. But yeah, Nick, last week another cryptocurrency called Ethereum, as we said, went down 3% over the past 7 days. But the actual Ethereum, I suppose, blockchain itself, its ecosystem had its largest annual developer event, and that was in Bangkok this year. So it moves around. This was the seventh time they've had this. And yeah, we had a lot to get through and a lot of highlights. I suppose I'll hand it over to you to go through some of these.
Yeah, so the main, I think, key lesson from 2024 has been just the underperformance of ETH relative to Solana and to Bitcoin, and even to a few other cryptocurrencies out there in the market. So a lot of focus has thus been on Devcon, the biggest developer conference. A lot of good talks, but the biggest one was Justin Drake from the Ethereum Foundation, who talked about Beam Chain. So he introduced an overhaul to Ethereum's consensus layer, essentially trying to signal to the market that, hey, now we've kind of solved a lot of the Ethereum scalability problems via this roll-up design, via things like Optimism and Base and Arbitrum and all these other networks, that now, hey, we need to focus back on making Ethereum, main chain L1 really great again, like for a better word. And so he introduced a lot of different points that would be rolled up in this beam. So things like increasing the staking economics of it, so reducing staking requirements down the road from 32 ETH to even 1 ETH. That was an idea he put forward. Increasing decentralization, reducing a lot of these times to make the Ethereum L1 faster and settle faster. Even trying to look forward and tackle threats from quantum computing that no doubt is going to be a big problem for cryptocurrencies heading into the next decade. And then again, making just the performance of Ethereum itself more on par with something like a Solana. This grabbed a lot of controversy because it's not going to be an overnight thing or even a multi-year thing. It's going to be about of a 5-year time frame. So he put a date on around 2029 at when we would want to probably see this fully hit mainnet with a lot of these goals that I talked about. So huge announcement. It's a big win for me just to know that hey, the Ethereum community is taking this very seriously. That they're not just going to rest on their laurels and focus on L2s, but they are actively focusing on making the L1 better. There's a common misconception that they've kind of just don't care about the L1. But if you look at the latest, I think Ethereum Foundation report that they posted last month, they come out and they said that they spent like 40% of their budget on L1 R&D. So a lot of that money that they've spent and a lot of the manpower they've invested in the Ethereum Foundation through a lot of research, I think that's going to make it very obvious and contribute to Beam Chain and trying to make the Ethereum L1 more performant, so we can fight off competitors from Solana and Sui as it's starting to get really behind the ball in this aspect, and it's been a huge concern for Ethereum and a lot of the Ethereum critics out there.
Thanks for that rundown, Nick. Yeah, Beam Chain one to keep an eye on for sure, and yeah, more attention going to the layer one. It looks like over the coming years, which, as you said, is always been the case. It's been a big misconception of Ethereum. In terms of some other highlights from the week, so Devcon happening over there, we saw Ethereum researchers unveil what they're calling smart transactions as well. So that can be one to keep an eye out for in 2025. We saw the founder of Gnosis arguing why there needs to be a concept called native L2s. Consensus's Joseph Lubin, an Ethereum co-founder, he shared his vision to decentralize key products like MetaMask, Linear, and Infura. So with the transition to a Trump administration in the US, people have always speculated if there'd ever be a token for some of these key products. And you would have to think if there ever was going to be, it would be under a Trump administration. So that could also be one to watch throughout 2025. Was there anything else, Nick, from Devcon that you wanted to touch on?
I think just a big focus on fixing Ethereum fragmentation. That was a key talk for one of the big panels that featured Vitalik Buterin, Jesse Pollock from Base, and then I think a few other Arbitrum co-founders, or off-chain labs co-founders, I should say. Just the idea here is that using Ethereum should be like, or using Ethereum L2 should be like using a single chain, like the single Ethereum chain. You shouldn't have to deal with all this user experience fragmentation that really hurts people from not choosing to use Ethereum but going over to Solana and other ecosystems such as Sui because they provide a cleaner user experience. So that was a huge focus from DevCon and really shows that I think this is going to be the new frontier. And if that can be solved, I think Ethereum can definitely continue to maintain its market position. And I think Vitalik even went as far in the panel to say that if Ethereum doesn't fix fragmentation, that it's going to lose a lot of users and it's going to really struggle to stay relevant in the market. So really explicit in why we should focus on this. And as you got on your screen here, ETH Global had a hackathon with over 700 projects. A lot of projects building in the real world tokenization space and AI agent space. So especially that AI agent space has been a huge theme, I think, through the last couple of months, whole year. And now it looks like we're going to see a lot of interesting products probably come to market into 2025 around this area of getting these AIs who could use blockchain and crypto payments is actually the best possible method for them to do business and operate on the world themselves. That's going to be a huge use case, I think, that's going to come.
Yeah, for sure. I always like seeing these hackathon winners. Like, if anyone's ever wondering, what people are building or what teams are building with blockchain technology, these going through the winners of these hackathons and seeing what it gives you a very strong signal of what's coming up. So no surprise to see AI agents in there, of course, and just general sort of tokenization projects as well. So yeah, if you wanted to check out some of these, definitely check out the ETH Global Hackathon finalists for some signs of what's to come in the market in 2025 and beyond. In terms of some other big news from the past 7 days, we've got FTX, so the bankruptcy estate there. They filed a lawsuit against Binance and CZ. So they are arguing that they would like 1.76 billion US dollars back in terms of recoveries from Binance. So the FTX bankruptcy estate here arguing that that amount of money was transferred as part of a fraudulent transaction. Binance has actually come back and saying that it's, quote, meritless, this argument. And yeah, the bankruptcy estate has been going after, I think it is around more than a dozen entities and filing lawsuits in an effort to rake back some capital or some money essentially to pay out more creditors more than what they currently are due to get. So yeah, it's one to watch there, and certainly a big amount, and we'll see what comes of that. In terms of other big news, we have BlackRock this week, Nick, as well.
Yeah, I'm always really excited when I see BlackRock continue to expand into public blockchains. So they're expanding their tokenized fund, which is their BUIDL funds. Essentially, it's putting the treasuries on chain and trying to get people exposure to them via USDC. They have expanded to 5 more blockchains: Aptos, Arbitrum, Avalanche, Optimisms, OPNet, and Polygon. So this is in addition to also expanding to Solana, which they announced at Breakpoint back in October. So really excited to see this here. This is one we've talked a lot about, and even just getting used to the idea of BlackRock deploying things on public blockchains. There was I guess a dream, 4 years ago, back in 2021, when we're thinking about the last bull market, and now we just got news like this that didn't even really capture too much of the news. Kind of went under the radar, given everything that happened with the election. Crypto prices bouncing. We always forget that, hey, BlackRock is continuing to expand into on-chain products.
So no, definitely expect more from BlackRock moving into 2025. And of course, a big news that happened recently and has sort of kept going throughout the past 7 days. Of course, the election and the votes have continued to be counted. So, of course, Trump has won and won the popular vote. He also won majority in the Senate. And then we saw the House of Representatives count being quite close. And that finished throughout, I believe, late last week. And that was officially handed to the Republican Party. So that why does that matter? Because now they've confirmed or officially sort of, I guess, completed a red sweep where the Republicans now control the Congress. So both houses of Congress, which is why does that matter? It's just going to be the Republicans will face less pushback in terms of passing bills that come through, where you don't have such back and forth between Democrats and Republicans that just essentially just slows down the whole legislative process and really makes it harder for Republicans. So that matters for crypto definitely because whilst we had started to see in the late days of Biden's administration, we started to see some more work being put by both parties. Overall, the Democrats had been seen as quite negative towards crypto. So to see the Republicans now controlling both houses should make it easier for pro crypto or crypto friendly bills to pass. So we know we've got the stablecoin bill coming out, expected next year to be going through Congress, and then we've got the market structure bill. So those will be two really important ones to keep an eye out. We've been doing some content at Collective Shift on those, given how important they will be for the outlook on the market. So yeah, just a little note to end things. While the Senate, there is a majority in the Senate for Republicans, it's worth noting that the Republicans don't have what's called a super majority, so they didn't actually manage to get 60 seats in the Senate, which is sort of what you need to be able to just pass anything without any attempts to delay legislation and all of that. So I think they ended up with 53 or 54 or something like that. So overall, it's still a healthy majority, but not just like a be all, just an easy path forward for the Republicans. So worth noting there, but overall still really good for crypto. In terms of other sort of legislation and news out of the States from last week, Nick, we had some news related to the SEC and Gary Gensler.
Yeah, I saw there was 18 US states that are suing the SEC, under Gensler's reign. Essentially, they're trying to block the SEC from suing any more crypto exchanges and the current cases from going forward. Really shows, I think, the state of play and why the election was so important, that it went the way of Republicans, because they are widely seen to provide a better regulatory environment now for crypto tokens. And that's why we saw cryptocurrencies like XRP, even like Uniswap and a lot of these other DeFi tokens really catch a bid in the latest rally and election rise, because, hey, we're already seeing that these states actually being suing the SEC because they're arguing that they have such a large overreach that they've stopped a lot of people creating, crypto products and just general products in the marketplace that is really underestimated by, I think, the general public, that people don't realize that you just can't create crypto products like as easily as you can, whether you're building a technology company or a manufacturing product. You can't actually deploy and create crypto products in the US. And that's what they're arguing, that this overreach was so bad and actually in some cases probably unconstitutional. So we had the DeFi Education Fund, I think, leading the charge here to try and group these states together against the SEC. Also saw Gary Gensler did have a bit of a cryptic post that he put out on Twitter or X, and a lot of this speculation has risen that, hey, he may be looking to step down any day now. So hopefully things are looking a lot more rosier. The best case we see is, hey, these states, or the SEC new head comes in and drops a lot of these charges ongoing against the crypto firms such as your Coinbase, your Kraken, and doesn't move forward with court cases against the likes of Uniswap Labs. So that would probably be the best case situation sometime next year.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. And there's a lot of uncertainty. Oh, yeah, still uncertainty surrounding sort of how this all plays out. So I think once that clarity comes, and depending on what it is, the facts around it, that may definitely move markets. And on a very similar note there, what is sort of, I think I'm picturing as a big variable coming up in the coming months about the facts surrounding it is definitely what happens with the Bitcoin reserves that Trump has promised at the Bitcoin 2024 conference that he spoke at. what actually happens around that will dictate how fast Bitcoin's price goes up, in my opinion. So there's still a lot of uncertainty surrounding what exactly will happen. What of note, I suppose, was last week we saw Senator Lummis, who has sort of put her name to this bill, has filed the actual Bitcoin Act of 2024 bill, and proposing that the US is to go ahead and set up like a strategic reserve of Bitcoin. So actually going out there and acquiring 1 million Bitcoin over a 5-year period. So that's what the proposal, and that's what is drafted in the bill. I think we've talked a lot previously about Cynthia Lummis. Her hit rate, like a lot of senators, to be honest, like the hit rate of like trying to get bills passed is extremely low. So we'll see if this actually goes through, and whether it maybe gets watered down and whatnot. But really, that is the only news that has come out about anything to do with the Bitcoin reserve. Trump, has not really talked about it since July or August, when he mentioned that there's this stockpile of Bitcoin that he would like to introduce. But I think what happens with that is, in my opinion, like one of the biggest things for investors really to keep an eye on, because it could really disappoint the market or it could really deliver.
Yeah, well said. And also, Trump never, as well, he never promised to buy Bitcoin. A lot of it was vague talk, mostly about not selling the current Bitcoin that he has, and that's probably why I know us as a team probably think, hey, very unlikely we see this, especially as there's probably bigger priorities out there, bigger fish to fry at the moment that have a higher chance to succeed in the market. The final bit of news I saw was Tether. They announced their asset tokenization platform, Hadron. This allows anyone to tokenize a wide range of assets, from kind of stocks, bonds, or even loyalty points. We've talked about Tether branching out into real world tokenization. We actually mentioned this platform that was coming up. They teased this the last few months. Finally here, excited to see exactly what comes of it, and who's adopting it, what kind of products get made out of it, and whether any big firms actually use Tether's platform here. So a big one, and real world assets and tokenization, as we mentioned in the hackathon, huge theme that with more regulatory clarity into 2025 should only really blossom as more people are not afraid to build real world or tokenization products, especially in the US.
Yeah, I'm keen to see how that adoption goes for Hadron by Tether there. So, nice one to finish off what has been a really successful year for Tether, no doubt about that. In terms of the biggest altcoin news from the past 7 days, as we said at the top of the show, there was a lot of strong price action on certain altcoins, but there was also some fundamental news coming out from a lot of projects, some of them tied into Devcon. So a first example here was ENS with quite a long time coming. Nick, I'll let you take what this announcement was.
Yeah, they've teased that they're finally going to move to an Ethereum L2 for about a year now. They finally announced a name chain, so it's going to allow any users to use ENS from any of the L2 networks. So they look like they're going to collaborate with a lot of the biggest L2s, Optimism, Arbitrum, even probably ZK Sync, I imagine, so that you can actually register your .eth names from any of these networks. At the moment, it's extremely cost prohibitive, especially when gas costs start to increase, which is just not a great user experience. It's really held down, I think, the ENS protocol, because no one is going to pay $40 to register a name once, and then even come back and to change it again. So a huge one here. They actually name maybe end of 2025 when we're going to see this go live. So at least it's a positive start, and I think it could unlock a nice amount of adoption for ENS once you no longer have to pay tens of dollars to do something. And if it's only going to be a few cents, I think that's going to be a huge unlock for ENS. Maybe shifting gears now to Maple, Matt. I saw they finally released Syrup. We're going to have a conversion going on. Do you have the TLDR on this one?
Yeah, so they announced this, I'll propose it, I think, to governance a few months ago, and that's gone through, and they've actually started to execute the conversion. So yes, the Syrup token went live last week. You don't, as a Maple holder, depends if you do hold them on certain exchanges, they are automatically migrating them for their users who hold MPL. So I believe Kraken was one of those, CoinSpot another one that were automatically doing it. in terms of any things to emphasize here, I would just personally like to emphasize: don't feel like you need to rush. The Maple team have said it will be at least 12 months until they actually do a deadline for actually when you can no longer migrate from MPL to Syrup. But eventually, I guess you have to do that as an MPL holder. And yeah, in terms of our outlook on the Syrup token, it really is the same outlook essentially for the Maple project, given MPL will no longer be a thing before too long. So yeah, to try to encourage the migrations, the Maple team has actually added some and boosted sort of some bonus staking rewards there for the first 90 days. So yeah, just to encourage an ecosystem sort of forming with Syrup holders. So yeah, to follow the prompts, we'll paste the announcement below. Just be aware of scams and whatnot and phishing attempts during times like these, because you do have to, if you aren't on one of those exchanges or you have a self-custody wallet, as I've got up on my screen here, you need to do this process via an on-chain. Like, you need to do it yourself. So the steps are pretty simple at the end of the day, but I would encourage people to just do it very slowly as well.
Thanks for that one,
Okay.
Matt. I saw a few more altcoin news. Athena, they I think are partnering, or Wintermute, one of the makers, actually looking to turn on the fee switch. I think there was a proposal that was posted in the Athena DAO forums. Big trend here, especially we talk a lot about fee switches and a lot about regulatory clarity on this pod. So this is another nudge that, hey, are we going to start to see this big wave of DeFi projects turn on their fee switch, where users of the protocol can actually get a bit of the fees that are generated from it, which transitions these from kind of governance meme tokens of what they used to be called into some sort of actually value accruing crypto tokens. So that's a huge narrative that should be forming into next year. Contrasting that one, also saw Doge really soared after Musk headed the Department of Government Efficiency, and maybe one that we wouldn't even know. Oh yeah, this one here. So that was probably the biggest trade a lot of people got on. Doge has been flying, went about 100+%, I think, in the last week or so. So we're going to see the Doge ticker everywhere now, considering that it's actually a code name for a government department. So that's absolutely nuts and makes me think I'm living in some sort of parallel universe here. Speaking of parallel universes too, Matt, we actually got Doodles NFT community. They started off as a profile picture project. They're collaborating with McDonald's to try and get their art to appear on McDonald's coffee cups at the end of next year. This one I did not even think about seeing, Matt. It was a surprise to me.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in 2020 or 2021 all over again. So yeah, Doodles is continuing to build out their IP, which I will admit is a strong IP. It's very it's very kid friendly, very nice color palette. Personally speaking, I think it has potential. Like obviously these things are very very hard to develop, given you've got the likes of Marvel and Disney, just with the monopoly or duopoly sort of thing. But yeah, you've got Pudgy Penguins building out their IP, and now Doodles actually saying, "Hey, we're here too." But yeah, they're probably two out of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds that have gone by the wayside. But yeah, great to see this headline coming through late in the year as well. So that does bring the altcoin section to a close. In terms of things to look forward to, absolutely this weekend we're very excited to be participating once again in Oz CryptoCon. So if you haven't got your tickets, do so now. You can head to the website, which is ozcryptocon.com. So that's happening this weekend, and we'll have a booth there, and we'll also be speaking. And Ben and Bergs will also be speaking as well. So yeah, looking forward to seeing everyone in Sydney, and then also in early December we have the Collective Shift Investor Summit. So a totally online event that's going for a full day on December the 5th. So you can find that. It's our website /summit. And I just got up on my screen here. Some of the speakers there include Zenica, Chris Judd, Anthony Sassano, and Checkmate. So a very nice variety. No incentives anywhere, which is what I love most about this summit. There's no ads, no sponsors. So yeah, really looking forward to that early in December. So yeah, really busy end to the year, but we'd have it no other way given the price action in the markets. wrapping up with our final segment here in terms of underrated or overappreciated. Nick, what did you have this week?
I saw that Bitwise acquired an Ethereum staking provider for about, not sure if they actually disclosed the amount here. Maybe it was undisclosed, but big deal because we're going to start to see probably big, asset managers start to really focus on staking products. As we know, staking is a huge amount of value that could be left on the table, really, and it could be uh, actually detrimental if you're a big asset manager and you're not actively contributing to the staking space and you're diluting your holders because staking can also be thought of dilution in a way because there's always more staking rewards that enter. And if you're not staking, you're not getting that reward, then you're probably getting a smaller part of the total supply in retrospect. So huge deal here. Really looking forward to hopefully seeing some staking products start to get offered, particularly with Ethereum, because I think that's going to unlock a lot more interest in a lot of ETF products if staking is introduced.
Yeah, well said there, Nick. One to watch for sure. Now we got the administration as well. Making it more likely that we'll have staking in these ETFs. You'd have to imagine. But in terms of me this week, I've got overappreciated. Similar to what we spoke about earlier, I'm just seeing a lot of over excitement. People really, just far too excited about the Trump administration's, I guess, plans for the Bitcoin reserve. While it could be enormous if they go ahead and actually purchase Bitcoin on the open market over 5 years, like what Lummis has in her bill, I think people's expectations are getting way too ahead of themselves in terms of the time frame. So don't get me wrong, I'm personally, as a Bitcoin investor, very excited about the potential for this stockpile of Bitcoin. But as Nick said earlier, Trump has never said anything about actually buying Bitcoin. There's been a lot of misinterpretation of that. He said, it could be something like just telling the US Marshals, as we said last week, just telling the US Marshals, hey, you're not allowed to sell Bitcoin, which even that, from what I've been researching, even him doing that would actually take a while to get through Congress and all of that. So whether that even happens remains to be seen. But I guess the main thing about this overappreciated part here is just the time frame. Don't expect anything to happen very soon. I hope that I'm wrong, but I think I'm just resetting my expectations to not get too excited for the coming 3 months, for example. Alrighty, that does wrap it up for this week. If you are looking for more insights, see our revamped weekly shift newsletter, providing free weekly market insights every Friday. Subscribe at collectiveshift.io/newsletter. That's collectiveshift.io/newsletter.